Ewan Simpson, welcome to Profile.
Good to be here.
It's a beautiful resume, so we're happy you're here, and I want to go through some of the major highlights before we dig into certain areas. First, an attorney at law called to the Jamaican bar in 2004. You hold a Master of Laws in Intellectual Property Law, and you've been busy. A former legal officer at the Ministry of Education, you've worked at a major Jamaican regulatory body, current chairman of the Jamaican Reggae Industry Association, JARIA, at the Intellectual Property Office as a director as well at a point. Then with the Entertainment Advisory Board to the Minister of Culture, former commissioner of the JCDC, former director of Airtel Limited, director of the Toll Authority of Jamaica, and adjunct lecturer. I'm reading out all of these as you smile, by the way. Former president and chief musical arranger of the University Singers, former musical director of the National Dance Theatre Company, founder and leader of Into Nation Band. I'm going to stop right there. When you hear this long list of things that you have done, what do you think?
I wonder when I found the time to do all of those things.
You wonder when you found the time?
I wonder when I found the time, when I think about it. But thankfully, it's been a minute. So I think I had spread them out over a decade or two.
Let's talk a little bit about that minute that it has been. And your story starts in Clarendon, one of our parishes that is known for sort of strong community life. And I want to talk about, I'm always interested in how people's upbringing shapes how they actually see the world. So I want to talk first about the people who raised you. You say you were raised by your grandparents largely.
Yes, I was raised by the parents of my father. Mm-hmm. My father met my mother in Kingston. Mm-hmm. My mother was from Westmoreland and my father from Clarendon. When I was born, my father and my mother already had an older female version of me, my sister Naomi, and she had gone to Clarendon to live with my grandparents, my father's parents. Mm-hmm. I went to visit her, and I don't know if it was my decision at one to stay or if it was my grandmother's decision, but I decided I was there. And I stayed with my sister, and so grew up with my grandparents. And that was an interesting start to my life, because it was very different from what was happening in Kingston. And there I was living in a home where the church was in the front of the yard.
In the front of the yard?
In the front of the yard. So my grandfather gave a quarter of an acre to the church. He built the church himself. Mm-hmm. And so church was always at home, because whether you were playing in the yard or you were hiding in your room or pretending to be studying not to go to church was right there.
What kind of church, by the way?
So it's the Assemblies of the Firstborn Church of God. So it's a Pentecostal church, hand clapping, foot stamping, tongue speaking, very musical, a lot of instrumentation, certainly a lot of timbrels, tambourines and cymbals and that kind of a thing. So it was that kind of upbringing where harmony was natural, and where the voice had to be used to its fullest potential as an instrument.
So that was the context. Let's talk first about the relationship with your mother and father at the same time. Mm-hmm. How were you seeing them?
So my earliest connections that I remember are with my father and his family. As I got older, I started to yearn to see my mother more, because of course my mother was living in Kingston, and then she migrated. So my strongest connections were with my father and his family, but subsequent connections rekindled with my mother and her family.
What was that relationship with your father like and his family?
So it was what we are accustomed to as a visiting relationship, because of course I'm growing up with my grandparents. He always reminded me that I should be grateful for what my family means to me, how they keep me grounded, how they were guiding me. Because when you are 9 and 10 and so on, and you now believe you know everything, and you believe that your way is the smartest way.
Of course.
You keep being told, listen, they are keeping you out of trouble. When I want to go and play football or play cricket or go hang out with the boys or go to the dance down the street, because if you're from a rural upbringing, you understand that music travels across the hillsides and you're hearing all sorts of things. And I grew up hearing revival music in the distance, dancehall in the distance, reggae in the distance, souls in the distance, and of course Jim Reeves from nearby. so it was all of that you wanted to dive into, but they kept it structured.
All right, I want to go to the Jim Reeves, but just before you get to the Jim Reeves, because that's so interesting to me, how when I read your bio and I saw Jim Reeves, I was like, we need to have an entire discussion about the fact that so much of our musical influences are the same ones as Jamaicans growing up. Country music, Jim Reeves, Skeeter Davis, it was the music I used to play on Sunday, so it's fascinating reading that for you. But first, your grandparents and what they were like. So your father was reminding you that their family was grounding you, your family was a place. What were your grandparents like?
So let me start with my grandmother. My grandmother was lightning. She was that kind of person who didn't pull punches. She spoke her mind. Yeah. She loved openly. She was very emotional and expressive. She was a basic school teacher. And she always shared her feelings and her thoughts, but also always cared. She was the one that opened the house to everyone, made sure everyone who came got a warm meal or, left with something, always had sweets and snacks for the kids, that kind of a thing. My grandfather was the opposite. He was probably the yang, right? And he was very quiet, very philosophical, listened way more than he said, and he was very hands-on. So he was a builder, he was a farmer, he was all of these things, and always spoke in parables. So that kind of balance was interesting for me.
So this is the kind of person who's saying eyelash older than beard?
Yes. Yes. Or the longest liver will see the most.
The longest liver will see the most? What does that mean?
It also means time will tell.
All right, but I want to talk about the musical influences, but we have to take our first break on Profile. My guest is Ewan Simpson, and we're back with you after these messages.